Hi, everybody. Welcome back. In this video, we're going to talk about Chapter 4 in your textbook, resumes, interviews, and negotiation. We'll start with the agenda for this video. Pretty short and sweet. We're going to go over the 6 stages of the job seeking process, and then talk a little bit more in detail about drafting resumes and cover letters. And I'll be talking about your first assignment a little bit here as well. So stage 1 is exploring. Exploring begins with you, the job seeker, exploring both yourself and potential careers that you may want to enter. Self-exploration is the process in which you set goals and priorities for yourself. And then in career exploration, you research available opportunities that correspond to those goals and priorities that you determined in your self-exploration. Shadowing or internships is a great way to get a sense of what types of careers may be best suited to your goals and priorities. Stage 2 is researching. And researching involves researching openings and potential employers. And some ways that you can do this are through job fairs. Back in the day, we had classified ads in the newspaper, and we still sometimes see help wanted ads in business windows and stuff like that. But now the internet is a great resource to find jobs and research what openings are out there. Also word of mouth, state employment services, and private employment services, and also professional associations. Stage 3 is applying. In the applying stage, that's when you're drafting your resumes and cover letters. It would behoove you to develop a generic resume to use as a starting point for customized resumes that you use to apply for each individual position. We will revisit resumes and cover letters in greater detail after we finish going through the rest of these 6 stages. Stage 4 is interviewing. In interviewing, you use your work from the previous stages to project a professional and competent image of yourself to a potential employer. And there are some strategies that you can use to be particularly successful in this interviewing phase. One is to prepare your overall message of who you would like to present yourself as to a potential employer. It is also a good idea to anticipate the questions and also remember that you will be asked different types of questions in an interview. You have behavioral questions in which they will ask you how you would respond to a certain situation or have responded in the past, and then more traditional questions like, tell me about yourself. You also should script some of your answers to the ability that you can and practice those answers. It's also very important to prepare your appearance. We talked about physical appearance a little bit when we were talking about nonverbal communication, but kind of going along with that, it's important also to remember that you are being evaluated during every interaction with the organization, whether you're talking to the official interviewer or not. So make sure you maintain that professionalism and competency in your self-presentation to everybody that you encounter on the day that you are interviewing. It is also a good idea to reduce your nervousness before the interview and prepare questions to ask. A good way to kind of accomplish these things can be to consider taking part in mock interviews. If this class was in person, we would do one as an assignment, but because we are online asynchronous, we are unfortunately not able to achieve that. But you could always enlist friends, family members, or just like trusted people in your life to do this with. There's also a bunch of ways nowadays that interviews can be conducted. We see telephone interviews, video conference interviews over platforms like Zoom, face-to-face interviews, and within that, there's also one-on-one interviews and panel interviews in which you're being interviewed by a group of people in an organization. Stage 5 is following up. And in this, you want to deliver a handwritten thank you note to the interviewer. This just helps leave an extra good impression of you. Definitely an important stage to follow through on and make sure you complete. Stage 6 is negotiating, and this is when you are accepting an offer, but it is more than just saying yes. This is your time to ask questions about salary, benefits, and vacation. But before you do this, it is important to research your own value, so you're not asking for more than what would be reasonable, and also industry norms. What is someone expected to make? What kind of benefits are you expected to have in an entry-level position in your industry? So now we're going to talk about resumes. There are a couple different formats in which you can use to create your resume. There are chronological forms, which is time ordered, just like the order in which things happen that you're putting on your resume. There's also functional or skill-based resumes, and sometimes we see combinations of both of them. There is no one-size-fits-all solution. It is really up to the individual to consider which format best highlights your strengths and downplays your weaknesses. Chronological resumes tend to be easier to draft, especially if it's their first time doing it. And they also emphasize employment and experience history. But you want to order it in your most recent first, so it's like reverse chronological order, if that makes sense. Now we'll talk about the elements that you want to see typically in a resume. So first and foremost, your contact information, your full name, and a way that you can be reached. Also, an objective and or summary statement. An objective is a 1 to 2 sentence declarative statement about your career goals. More modern resumes have kind of gotten away from this a little bit and moved more toward a summary, which is just an overarching view of your skills and traits that are related to your professional goals. Again, this is something that's kind of up to the individual to determine what would be most beneficial to highlight their strengths and downplay those weaknesses. Also, education is important. Where did you go to school? What degree did you have? If you're in graduate school, advisors and thesis and dissertation topics are important to throw on there. A lot of people ask questions about whether or not they should put their grade point average on there. Generally, the rule of thumb is if it's good, put it on there. But if it's not so hot, maybe just leave it off. Also, experience, and this can be employment, but for a lot of you that are upperclassmen graduating college soon, you may not have had a job in your industry that you want to go into. So you could also put relevant experience, like extracurriculars or things like that, leadership positions that you have held that you feel would be relevant, and again, highlight those strengths that you have. You can also put your skills like software proficiencies or anything like that that you think would be helpful, awards and hobbies. And also, references are typically not on your resume for the purpose of our assignment. If it's easier for you to throw them on there, that's fine. I'm just asking for contact info for that reference and a little bit about your relationship with that person and the organization that you were all part of together. Typically in a real job interviewing setting, you would just want to note that they're available upon request, but not automatically include them. But like I said, for this assignment, whatever is easiest for you is fine with me. Some other considerations that you want to take into account when drafting your resume: remember to keep your audience in mind, and remember that you're writing this up and drafting it for them. You also want to create visual appeal, and what this means does kind of vary on the industry. A lot of times we don't want to see a lot of use of color, but we do want to see balanced white space, professional appropriate fonts, Times New Roman 12, things like that. But if you're going into a field like graphic design, for example, it might be a little more appropriate for you to get more creative with your resume. Also, you want to consider developing electronic and scannable resumes so that you can fill out online applications on sites like Indeed, Monster, and things of that nature. Now we'll move on to cover letters. So cover letters introduce you as a potential employee. And again, they highlight parts of your resume that maybe you couldn't get so deep into that you wanted. And they demonstrate your writing skills as well. So in your cover letter, you want to state your interest in a specific position, reference the required skills and qualifications and how you and your skills and experiences fit those. Express your desire to discuss qualifications in an interview. And it's also important to have, your the company address, your address, a salutation, and a closing. So all of that is very important. There are a bunch of templates out there that make this process a lot easier. But it is important, these are meant to be concise. So you want to do no more than like a page. Same with the resume. It is better to keep it one page front and back, if anything, but one page is ideal. So that is it for chapter 4. So just to recap, we talked about the 6 stages of the job seeking process, which are exploring, in which we explore the self and potential careers that are conducive to our goals and priorities as an individual. There's researching, in which we research both openings and potential employers. There's applying, in which we draft our resumes and cover letters. And then interviewing is stage 4, in which you use your work from those previous 3 stages to project a professional and competent image of yourself to a potential employer. Then stage 5 is following up, in which you deliver your handwritten thank you note to the interviewer. And then negotiating, in which you accept an offer, but remember that it is more than just saying yes. And then we finished up talking about resumes and the different formats that you can use and the elements that you generally want to include in that, and the purpose and things you want to hit in your cover letter as well. Again, both are meant to be concise, no more than 1 page. But I am available via email or during office hours if you have questions about your assignment beyond this. But that is all for today. Thanks again for watching.